In this video, we'll study about the syntax of for loop. But before studying about the syntax of for loop, I'd like to tell you a small note about the while loop. Okay, so here we have three cases for while loop. If we give blank in the parentheses, then we'll get an error that is condition is must. Okay, so this is not allowed in Java that we can leave this parenthesis blank over here. We need to give some condition over here, otherwise we'll get an error. Second case is if we pass in 1. As you all know, in C and C++ we don't get an error in this line, as 1 is treated over there as true and 0 is treated as false. So if we write over here, 1 will be treated as true. But in case of Java, 1 is not treated as true. So we'll get an error, as it will give an error that required boolean found in. Okay, and this is the right statement for giving true inside while loop. Okay, so this true is a boolean expression over here, as we have boolean expression in Java that is true and false. So this will work as infinite loop. So every time we'll check the condition, it will be true, so it will never be false. That's why this will run in an infinite loop. Okay, so now next we'll move towards the syntax of for loop. Okay, so now if I talk about the syntax of for loop, this is just a simple statement, simple syntax. Okay, so here we have, yes, this is a entry control loop also, as we'll check the condition before entering inside the loop. The while loop here was also an entry control loop, because we first checked the condition, then we entered inside the loop. Okay, so there are two types of loop, that is entry control loop and exit control loop. Okay, so if I talk about entry control loop, while loop and for loop are entry control loops. These both are entry control loops. And if we talk about do while is an exit control loop. For each is similar like for loop, so this is also an entry control loop. Okay, so but in this for each loop we don't have the condition, that's why we cannot say it entry control or exit control. We have the main three loops over here, while, for and do while, in which while and for are entry control loop and do while is exit control loop. Okay, so if I talk about the syntax of for loop, here we have the syntax. First we have the for keyword, then we have the parenthesis. Inside parenthesis, first thing is the initialize statement. Okay, so declaration is possible here also, but its scope will be only inside this for loop. Okay, so this whatever we suppose I am initializing over here, a is equals to 5, int a is equals to 5. So the a variable will only be available inside this loop. Outside the loop will not be able to access it. Okay, now the condition is present over here, and then the increment and decrement thing and the statements for the for loop. If we are having multiple statements, we can add curly braces over here to add multiple statements. Okay, so here we can have multiple statements then. Okay, so now we can have multiple initializers also. Okay, so for example, I can write like this: for, then we have initialize, then we can put a comma and again initialize, then a semicolon, then we can again have a condition. Okay, this condition, and then we have increment and decrement. Okay, suppose I am incrementing, then I can again give a comma and do some decrement, then I can give some comma and do some decrement again in some variable. Okay, so this is absolutely right. The condition says that we must have two semicolons over here. So this is one semicolon and this is second semicolon. Okay, so now if I talk about the condition over here, this condition has something like and or operator. Okay, so this condition is not necessary. If the condition is blank, we don't get an error, as default is true, so infinite loop will run. Okay, that's it for the syntax of for loop. In the next video we'll take some questions on the for loop. Thank you.